Do you like Civil War articles on the web? Well, I do. And I have two relatively new websites that kind of focus on the possibility of a civil war in America. The first one I want to point out is called Mark My Words by John Mark. I especially enjoyed his Civil War in America, Who Will Win article right here. What he does is he goes through a lot of factors that you have to account for on who would win. Basically it comes down to who has the most guns. Uh, and you can see on the right in the red, excuse me, that the right has most of the big advantages. Basically, it's another the theory that the war will be over by Christmas. We've heard that a lot in past wars. Supposed to be over by Christmas. Well, it never is. But anyway, this is a kind of a fun site to look at and get you thinking. But yeah, the right currently might have the most guns, yet might have the military on its side, which will probably end up being the biggest factor. Uh, he also talks about how he agrees with Ann Coulter that Trump will be the last Republican president. That's because of the unchecked immigration coming into the U.S. The second site I want to point out is called Forward Observer. Now, this individual apparently has some professional training in a threat assessment. So he knows what he's talking about. At first, I didn't like his articles, but by the time I got into the second or third one, I was a firm believer this guy knows what he's talking about. Very detailed analysis, convincing. Basically, his position is that we are here. Low intensity conflict. You are here. See the arrow? We're above peaceful competition, but we're not yet in a conventional war. We're in a low intensity conflict. What you see, fighting in the news between the parties, some conflict in the street, especially by Antifa. So, and I get the impression that he believes that we're likely to stay in a low intensity conflict for quite some time. He does agree that it seems like empires only survive for about 250 years. That's their lifespan. And I think that he's of the opinion that the U.S. is close or soon to be in that period. He does believe that an all-out civil war is unlikely. It's more likely to be regional conflicts, possibly some breaking up of America into balkanized states. But I want to just make a few brief comments, my own thoughts on this. First, John Mark. He subscribes to something or a political idea called propertarianism. I looked at it a little bit. I got the impression that it was kind of like a cult, possibly un-American. I don't even know if they fully subscribe to the Constitution. And I also saw possibly anti-religion Christian. Myself, I'm a member of the Holy Catholic Church. I didn't get a very good vibe when I got to the part about how religion would be treated basically okay, as long as it doesn't get in the way or disturb the state. All right, Forward Observer. Apparently his view is that the people of America are so comfortable that they're not likely to want to go out into the streets and fight a war. They have pretty good jobs, lives. They're okay sitting, in the local pub, maybe going to the game or something with their buddies. Apparently, the takeover of America by Marxism, communists, is not sufficient to get people out in the streets to fight. I find that disturbing. Apparently, it's the old better red than dead theory of the 50s and 60s, where I kind of grew up. Overall, I don't think that the Forward Observer really has a solution to what's going on, although he's still pumping out videos. I'm waiting eagerly for the next ones. Maybe he'll come up with a solution. He seems to agree with John Mark that immigration will eventually overwhelm the national ethnic background and the Republican Party as a real force in politics. But on that note, with the unlimited immigration and eventually whites becoming a minority in our own country, both dance around what I think is the big issue. It's not just that Trump will be the last Republican president, but whether he wins in 2020 or not, he may soon be the last white president. And yeah, that seems a little disturbing. When whites become a minority in our own country, we have non-whites, now a majority, and they have axes to grind, payback. In part due to identity politics, kind of creates a hatred of whites, possibly seeking reparations. I mean, why not have a special tax on whites, basically to pay for reparations for all the minorities in the past that have an axe to grind against the U.S. and the white people in general. So I wonder, will there be a civil war by then? Well, I think that would definitely be inevitable, because it's not just the Republicans, but eventually I think, the whites, will have to band together as brothers and sisters with the backs to the wall. It's going to be forced into a situation where you are going to become kind of like, I don't know, Nazis. It's also, you're going to have to fight for your race. That's what I think it is. I mean, I grew up as a kid in the 50s and then into the 60s, kind of like Leave It to Beaver life. Didn't really think about this. But lately, yeah, I'm thinking about this. And I didn't really think, racial things before, but now that I am becoming a minority and basically getting all kinds of hate on, I can see that eventually I am going to have to stand up, with my back against the wall, and I think that others like me will. Can't take it forever. Anyway, both of these sites, I think, are great. I give the edge to John Mark for the win. One of his big things, he's more of he just gets right into it. Basically, he says that the time for talk is over. There are only two options: peaceful separation or war. And in the end, I think that is actually right. We can go over the technical details of the factors and who has the advantage and, whatever. But in the end, I think that's what it's going to have to come down to, especially when whites become the minority, not only here in the U.S., but possibly even in Europe, the homeland of the whites. I mean, it's going to have to be separation or war. Now, the problem with separation, for both John Mark and the Forward Observer, is that the globalists, Marxist communists, they're not going to let you go. I mean, these people are fanatics. It's almost like a religious crusade. I mean, wherever we split up, they're eventually going to come in and try and take you over. I think that Forward Observer even mentions that even if there was a separation, or I guess the correct grammar were a separation, eventually the leftist states would be sending in people to subvert, the right-leaning states. That would definitely happen, in my opinion. So, I don't know. I don't think that we can have just separation, unless perhaps, the leftists, just left the country completely, preferably for south of the equator. Okay, so that's just my little bit of thoughts on these two sites. I think they're both excellent, and I just can't wait for more of their videos to come out. Okay, my name is Stephen. All this is just my opinion and thoughts off the top of my head to a lot extent. I just wrote this outline up a little while ago. Okay, I hope that this live stream came out later.